Buenas, buenas, mi gente. Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Hablamos Spanglish. In today's episode, we kick off Women's History Month, el mes de la mujer. And we will be sharing inspiring stories from Latinas and American women in marketing. You will learn how their work makes a difference and empowers the Latino community in the United States. Today, you will hear from my comadre, my dear friend Sami Haiman-Marrero's vibrant story as we discuss personal growth, entrepreneurship, and community activism. Sami shares her journey from the Bronx to the Orlando media scenes, reflects on her challenges as a Latina in the corporate world, and how she has become an advocate for the Hispanic market. Sami also reveals how she started her business and created numerous programs to help the Hispanic community. But that's not all. She is a powerful example of how you can own your own business and have a family at the same time. She breaks down stereotypes and tells us how she balances her roles of motherhood and her business. Sami is really a source of inspiration. I invite you to discover through her how to stay true to yourself while pursuing your dreams. Enjoy every second of this new episode of Hablamos Spanglish. Vamos! Sami!
Ana Carolina.
We're kicking off the Women Heritage Month with the right person here. I'm super excited to have you be part of Hablamos Spanglish.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited. And there's so much power sitting here with
I know.
you.
And with you, I'm so excited because, we have talked about having you here and then also at your podcast. And this year, I think, we made it happen. And you started your 5th year anniversary with my episode. And now I'm starting with the Right Women Heritage Month.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's what we need to do, right?
Yes.
It's like lean in on each other and make sure that we share our own spaces and our spheres of influence so we can elevate each other. I think that's what it's all about.
And that's what you have done. From the beginning and with me. And I will always thank you because before I started my business, I only had that idea in mind and I was a consultant. You helped me and collaborated with me. You believe in me, and that's huge. So I always grateful for that.
And that's just a start, because I'm always cooking something up.
I know.
And so it's just a matter of finding that right opportunity. And that for me, you're literally just a phone call away. So it's just a matter of time.
Ay, no, tan linda, Sami. Tú sabes que te quiero y I think you are one of those women that have paved the way for me to be where I am. I wanted to share your story because you have been, an amazing leader in our community, an activist for our Latino community here in the United States, a champion. And I want our audience to get to know you a little bit better because for sure they have heard about you. Tú estás en todo, Sami, pero más en como tener esta conversación de quién es Sami, and yeah, let's start from there.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Yo te quiero un montón a ti también.
No.
Eres bien especial y eres bien emprendedora. Lo más que admiro de ti es el grit, ¿verdad? Y el tenacity que tú tienes. Y yo creo que en la medida en que yo he podido, ¿verdad? Mostrar un poquito de cómo se hace eso, ¿verdad? Es realmente because I've had people that I've been able to follow too, right?
Yeah.
And that have served me as inspiration, not only here in our community, but also, in different stages of my life, right? Personal and professional. And so
You're
I'm
gonna
sure
make me cry,
it's
Carlos. I need
okay.
tissues.
It's okay, but you might not realize
Mira,
it.
los tissues de verdad.
I know, but you might not realize it, but you're doing the same. And so I just want to let you know that people are watching you too.
Yeah.
Okay? And congratulations on your Don Quixote.
Thank you.
It was very well deserved. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, mama. Okay? Que lo que te espera es mucho y en grande.
Gracias.
Okay?
Gracias.
Bueno,
Amor.
nada. Where do I
Que te
begin?
veo
I
de-
was born on May 18th. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's just we could talk about entrepreneurship. We
Yes.
could talk about my corporate life. We could talk about, different aspects, right, of just living and
Yes.
being a human being, right? And it's very complex, but it's not really unique to me. Everybody has a story.
Everybody has a story, and we come from different countries. Different cultures. A veces están diferentes las maneras como hablamos.
Mhm.
Pero quiero, you are an Puerto Rican that has maintained her roots, but also that has been able to amplify the voice of so many Latinos, right? I wanted to start from the beginning porque creo que las raíces las has mantenido y eso es algo muy bonito. No todo el mundo mantiene sus raíces. So,
Yeah. So for me, it was when I came from Puerto Rico to the first off, I was born in the Bronx.
yes.
My parents were Nuyorican, right? They were first generation Latinos growing up in the Bronx, very, very poor in the South Bronx. And when they were in their early 20s, they moved the family to live in Puerto Rico. And so I grew up in un monte. Así en una jungla, right? Running barefoot. Picture that, right? Running barefoot, climbing trees, jumping into the river, very wholesome.
Tú eres parte del musical
Es-
de Manuel Miranda.
Sí,
Yeah,
y
literal.
entonces pues nada, o sea, así yo crecí en un monte bien arraigada a mi tierra, tú me entiendes, con todas las tradiciones y todas las costumbres. And so when I finished my studies at the University of Puerto Rico, we call it La UPI, in communications, right? I figured, why not move back to New York City, which is the media capital of the world, right? And then I had a large extended family, plenty of couches I could crash on,
Yes.
right? Until I
So you already knew that you wanted to be in media.
Like,
Yes.
yes.
That was something that
Sí,
you...
con esta boca. O sea, que no me callo, definitivamente.
I was born to do this.
I was born to stand on a soapbox. Yes, absolutely. And so, nada, it was for me just the logical step to leave, ¿verdad? And to go to New York City and pursue this career. And so at 22, 23, right, with a master's degree, fully bilingual, I was young, I was cute. I thought I was hot shit. I was like, la última Coca-Cola. And then I come to New York City to a business environment that is clearly dominated, right, by white males. Y aquí aparezco yo. Y es como que pito tocas tú aquí, right? It's like, no, aguántate,
And what was to be a woman at that time?
It was interesting.
And Latina.
Latina. So really it's like ni voz
Double
ni voto.
minority.
Yeah, double minority, ni voz ni voto. And so you kind of had to first find people that look like you. And that's where I grew an appreciation for my fellow Latino brothers and sisters from other countries. Ahí aprendí a comer arepa, ¿tú me entiendes? Todo el cuisine, o sea, lo que es chile relleno, que es mi favorite, o sea, tequeño. I could go on, ¿verdad? Because where I was living at that moment, first in the Bronx and then in Queens, you could just step outside and that's what you found, right? Mi comunidad. Y también mis compañeros de trabajo, ¿verdad? Entonces Marcia y Francisco y Sandra y de Perú, de Ecuador, ¿me entiendes? De todos estos países. And so we leaned in on each other because we had to protect each other in these corporate environments, right? And so I'm not going to get into the details of all the experiences, good and not so good, that I went through, but slowly but surely I was able to develop a thick skin. I learned how to speak what I call white male, right? It's about the bottom line. I learned very early on that it's either you make money or you save money, right? In these corporate environments. And to really tie my value, forget about as a human being, as a worker, right? To those two things, either saving the company money or making them money, so that way I could advance in my career. That's it. Esto no es nada complicado, ¿verdad? Y entonces poco a poco con cada ascenso, ¿verdad? Cuando llegó el 2000, en el año 2000, y te estoy hablando de, right? cuando esos números del censo salieron and they showed that growth in the Latino segment, they were like, you, tú,
Ay, sí
ven
fue.
acá, come over here. You know, what does this data mean, right? And I was already working in the Latino media segment, right? But then it became more, how do you say?
Recognize.
Recognized, but more kind of like area of interest,
Okay.
right? Porque todavía hoy, it's still difficult,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
And so it's mind-boggling, actually, how we're still so kind
And
of
that was
there,
back like
25 years ago,
25
right?
years.
And so poco a poco, I was able to advance in my career and really work in these spaces where I had an opportunity to really advocate and talk about the Hispanic consumer segment at a national level, right? Because I worked for publications that were owned by mainstream organizations like the National Enquirer, like the New York Post, right? That had Latino publications, and that gave me right an opportunity again to work right in mainstream spaces, but talking the Latino story.
So did you know that you wanted to work? I know you wanted to work in media, but did you know that you wanted to work in the Hispanic media, like for Latinos?
I just fell into it,
Okay.
right? I just like literally fell into it. My first job was at a PR agency that needed a bilingual person. So hablamos Spanglish, ¿verdad? And it was really crazy because it was a very small agency. And the owner was actually Puerto Rican in New York. And he did a lot of public affairs initiatives. And I remember he was very American in the way he did things. And so I remember when I went to interview for this job, he said, "This is fantastic. So you are bilingual?" And I say, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to test you." So they gave me like a press release, like that was part of the interview. And I had to translate, right, this document. And I did in like 15, 20 minutes. They proofread it, the person that was in charge of the proofreading, and I passed. With flying colors. So the guy tells me, "Okay, so I want to hire you, but there's a catch." And I said, "What?" And he's like, "That you need to tell me in 5 minutes." And I'm like, "Okay." And so then he tells me how much it was. It was, oh my God, it was 20 grand a year.
Dios.
Una porquería.
gosh.
Okay, pero whatever. So, but I mean, I was desperate, right? I had just arrived. Anyway, so I took the job, and I always tell everybody, just get in. Then once you're in, you can move, right? And so I said, and so then so I tell him, "Do I have to wait the 5 minutes?" And he's like, "No." And I say, and so then he says, "Okay." And so then I said, "So then I'll take it." He's like, "Great." He says, "So now go outside and tell Zulema, who was in the front, to order a car because we're on our way to Banco Popular, which was on Midtown Manhattan. And in the car, I'm going to tell you what you're going to say." And I'm like, what the hell is going? Like, I can't make this up. Right? It was like a movie. So then, so I'm like, okay. So I go outside and I say, "Okay, I'm hired and you need to call the car service because we're whatever." In the car, this guy tells me, "Okay, so I'm going to introduce you and you're going to say, 'My name is Sami Haiman and I joined blank agency in the last 6 months.'" And I said, "But I just joined like 10 minutes ago." He's like, "Yeah, so you're not lying." And I'm like, "Coño,
Oh my God.
esto es
So this is what it
increíble."
is to be part of. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, he's like, "Yeah." And so anyway, and so that was my first
That was
day
your first.
in the media kind of world, right? And then I left that job because he was very abusive, like yelling, and it was just, I learned so much though from him.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That was just a start, right?
Sami, I know that you had so many experiences, right, with working with the Hispanic market, right, or for media that wanted to penetrate the Hispanic market, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So was that? I know you said that you built thick skin, and I remember working at Univision for the sales department, and they will tell me you have to build thick skin. I didn't know what that meant until
Yeah.
I aprendí a las malas.
Yes.
Pero is that, I think that's part of what made you who you are right now. You know,
Yes.
and made you that incredible activist and human being because no te quedas callada tampoco,
Mm,
¿verdad? Pero
mhm.
can you tell us a story?
Yes, I can tell you various stories,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think it's just that constant rejection,
Mm-hmm.
right? From brands that are mainstream and back then, were just like
They're not interested.
not interested at all. You're wasting. They would tell me
Mm-hmm.
you're wasting your time. Why do you keep visiting me? Because I would travel all over the country, right? And I said,
Mm-hmm.
because sooner or later
Yeah, you're gonna regret
you're
it.
gonna no, and you're gonna bite. You're gonna
Oh,
bite. That was my
also,
mission too,
yeah.
right? So then I would bring the data,
Mm-hmm.
and then and eventually they would. I remember this one brand, okay, and I'll mention it, I don't care. Clorox, right? So they were all the way in San Francisco, so that's far.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to over there
Wow.
once a year, but there was Clorox would very rarely
Yes.
give you a meeting,
Yes.
right? And it was like, you're wasting your time going all the way over there. They're not gonna do anything, what have you. I'm like, okay, fine. So one day, finally, I was like a thorn on this guy's ass. It was like llama, y jode, until finally I got the meeting, right?
Uh-huh.
So then I fly out to San Francisco. I meet with the guy. He's like very like curt. I'm giving him the information. I know that he was hearing like wah wah wah, right? Like it was just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
But I observed in his space that this was clearly a person that was very much into the humanities and to the arts because
Mm.
of the artwork and the stuff that was decorating his office,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I said, okay, cool, yo te agarro bajando. So when I got back, I went online and I found like sculptures and I found this beautiful piece of a woman. It looked like a Diego Rivera
Mm-hmm.
painting
Painting.
with así with the tulips, right?
Uh-huh.
La mujer with the
Sí,
tulips,
sí, sí.
sentada así en su regazo. Beautiful. And I actually bought two. So I have one in my
You have
house.
one.
You see,
Yes.
yeah. I bought because I loved it. So I bought this piece of art and I packaged it and I did a handwritten note. And I say, hi, so and so. This is Maria.
Oh, you tell a
Okay.
story, I remember.
Yes, this is Maria, and she's hardworking and she's passionate about her culture, right? And nothing moves her more, than her children, seeing her children thrive, right? And I just
Yeah.
le hice ahí todo
La
el cuento,
historia.
le metí todo el cuento de María,
Uh-huh.
right? And I said, and so your brand really resonates with because it protects, it cleanses, it's hygiene, right? It's the minimal thing that she
And
can
that's
do to protect
and that's what
those she loves the
Latina
most.
moms
Exactly. Y
do,
bam, y
right?
se acabó, mira, nos
Y
dieron.
te dieron la
Me dieron,
cuenta.
claro que me dieron la cuenta. Y así.
That was one of your
I
first
say,
wins.
totally.
Yeah.
Bam. I was like, Papito, you've got something coming to you because I'm gonna find a way to connect with
I
you.
wanna see the numbers now. I'm curious of
Mm,
how many Latinas
Yeah.
purchase Clorox, right?
Yes, that's all of us do. I think all of
Yes.
us do, right? It's now a staple in our
Exactly. It
homes,
is. It is.
And
Es como
so,
en Venezuela we
yeah.
have something that is called jabón las llaves. It's
Mm-hmm.
un jabón azul.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we use it until we brought, when I went to Venezuela recently, we bought it. It's just that we're loyal.
Yeah.
Once we stick with a brand, if
Yes.
they take care of us,
Yes.
right,
We'll
we're
take
loyal.
care of you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's just one of many stories,
Yeah.
right? For different brands. And so and it really comes down to storytelling
Yes.
and to really appealing to people's sensitivities, right? And it goes both ways.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
companies and the brands and the governments and the nonprofits and all of those
Yeah.
entities that want to talk to us,
Exactly.
but then also us, right? Letting them know what makes a difference in our lives, right?
Yes.
And what we like and what we don't like. And I think we
Exactly.
need to be a little bit more forthcoming with that.
Sami, so no, we're dedicating this month, right, to Latinas, right,
Mm-hmm.
or Latinas in marketing,
Mm-hmm.
right, mujeres en marketing. So that's, I wanted to bring you because you started your own business, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you have been doing multicultural marketing for such a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
even before you opened your business, you
Mm-hmm.
have this you started in media, uh, and even before, I think the Latino community was even recognized as a an big market, right?
Hmm.
So when did you decided to open your business? What led you to it?
It wasn't by choice.
Mm.
So in 2008, there's this thing called the recession that happened. And at that time, I was working for a New York company from home. So I was
Mm.
able to negotiate that.
Wow.
Yeah, before
Because
moving to
that
Orlando. Yeah,
exactly
so I've
that
been
wasn't
working.
common.
Yes, it wasn't a thing, right? So
Uh-huh.
I've been working remotely for 20 years now,
Wow.
right? The first 4 years I lived in Orlando from 2004 to 2008, I was working for the New York Post
Uh-huh.
and I was working from home and I would travel from MCO all over the
Oh
country.
wow.
So
Okay.
then when the recession came, I was asked to come back to New York and
Mm-hmm.
I said no.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
The quality of life, my house, my son was born. I started later. For
Yeah.
Latinas, we
Mm-hmm.
usually, or historically,
Historically,
historically, that's
yes.
changing,
Hello.
right? Used to have children younger.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started having children at 37,
Mm-hmm.
¿verdad? Older. And so I didn't want to move back to New York
Mm-hmm.
City con el frío y
Con
todo.
los
Uy,
y con
no,
los
qué
niños.
horror. So, so no.
Y que ya no,
So
ya
no.
de cuerpo caribeño, no.
Exactly. So then I was like, okay, so what's my severance package, right? And
Mm.
so then we negotiated that and they treated me well. And then I started looking for work here in Orlando and I couldn't find anything because I
Mm.
didn't have any
And at
roots
that
here.
time, it wasn't also the best time to look for a job either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I did was I put the machete between my teeth, right? And I went out to hunt and start
Mm.
my own business by doing what I used to do, which
Wow.
is business development, sales, marketing,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, this is what I know how to do, and I do it very well, right? And so that's how I started my business, but it was really not by choice.
Yeah.
It was because I needed to put food on the table.
And did you ever, like prior to that, did you ever think that you were gonna own your business?
Well, you
Like
know
you,
what's funny that you
uh-huh.
asked me that? Because I was thinking recently that I've kind of had this entrepreneurial bug all
Okay.
along because when I was growing up in the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
que allí no había nada que hacer, I was so bored out of my mind most of the time. I learned how to sew. Don't
Okay.
tell anybody though. I'm not gonna hem your pants.
Hmm.
Okay.
I know where I'm going with
Yeah.
it.
So I know how to
Mm-hmm.
sew. And when I went to college, I wanted extra money. And so I used to sew
Oh,
at nighttime and on the
so
weekends. And
you
I
were
used to
actually entrepreneur at
yes,
that
and I
time.
used to sell my clothing at the University of Puerto Rico in the bathroom,
Oh my
right? So I
God.
would go to the communications department and the girls would see me,
Uh-huh.
right? I mean, ahí llegó Sami, and I would be like a bag lady, right? With my bags of clothing, and we would go into the bathroom and they would try it on. And we didn't have cell phones back then,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
they couldn't, they're like, ¿Cómo me veo?
Ah.
You know? And so one day
My
I
God.
talked to the conserje, como the janitor
Uh-huh.
of the faculty and I said, Oye, ven acá, if I buy one of those mirrors, would you like
Ay,
into
qué
the bathroom? I'm like, would
cómica.
you like put it on the wall of the bathroom? And he's like, sure. So
O
I
sea,
went and I bought a long mirror and he installed it in the bathroom
that's
wall.
so
And so then
funny.
my retail shop was the women's bathroom at the communications
How
faculty at La
funny.
UP. Thank you, UP.
Exactly. I was gonna tell you,
Yeah.
all women
Yes,
that
exactly.
went to school there, we're
Yeah,
gonna thank you.
exactly. So quite frankly, I kind of exercised a little bit of entrepreneurship, but back then I didn't know what it was, right? It
Was it
was like
hard when you started? Did you, because there are so many things
with my
that.
business. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. It was so hard here locally.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did was I banked on the relationships that I had built
Mm.
throughout my 11 years in the
Yes,
corporate sector.
exactly.
And so my first three clients were in New York,
Okay.
Texas, and in California, just close friends that already knew.
Okay. It
You
starts
know,
always like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. It's just people you know. So I started making calls. I just old school, right?
Yes.
Phone calls. I went through my Rolodex, which I
A
actually
Rolodex.
found.
Oh my gosh.
I found my Rolodex from 20 years ago over the holidays because I was cleaning my
Mm-hmm.
this? And I'm like, aha.
This is how everything got started.
Yes, yes. And it
And
was
how long
great.
ago was that when you
The
started?
business, we're going into
Because
16 years now
yes,
in
because
business.
I remember, your 10th anniversary was when I came back from Spain. Wow,
Yes,
Spain really.
yes. 10 years
And
was, yeah, that was
and
6 years ago.
and Sammy, when did you pivot to to do the multicultural marketing? When did you say, you know what, this is where I'm gonna go? And
It's funny that you asked that because that's what it was at the beginning,
okay.
right? Since I come from media with a specialization in the Hispanic segment,
Mm-hmm.
when I did my elevator speech
Uh-huh.
back then, it used to be, "Hi, my name is Sami Haiman-Marrero. I'm an expert in the Hispanic market segment. So if you need help tapping into this burgeoning segment of our,
Yeah.
of our
Yeah, yeah,
region, I'm the chick you need to talk to." And so that was it, right?
Okay.
So it was
It was
multicultural from the
from the
get-go.
beginning. Okay.
However, once I started working in the healthcare space,
Mm-hmm.
with patient-centered care and cultural competency training for clinical, non-clinical staff and all of that kind of stuff, then that's when it started shifting into
Mm.
more of a multicultural, diversity, equity, inclusion, although now we can't say those words
Yeah.
here in
But no,
Florida.
we
But
can
let's
do
call
it
it,
here.
wait,
This is the
okay,
national
wait,
podcast.
or we could say, representation, parity, and access, same shit, right? But that's
Yeah.
basically the lane, right, that
Mm-hmm.
I kind of fell into. Um, through passion and advocacy, not only for others but for self.
Yes.
And I think that when I started my business and realized that for so many years I was on that hamster wheel of trying
Mm-hmm.
to make my family proud, reach that six-figure income, and advance in my career from a corporate standpoint, I was so hyper focused that I wouldn't look to the left or to the right to see other people around me,
Wow.
right? And so when the rug got pulled from under my feet
Mm-hmm.
and I was starting from ground zero, right, with this business, not knowing what the hell I was doing, yo prometí desde ese momento that I would never look away,
Yeah.
that I would always have the community front and center and advocacy in everything I do. And
And
so for me, entrepreneurship and
yes.
activism are
Yes.
not mutually exclusive. They're
Yeah.
one and the same thing.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I wanted to ask you also about your nonprofit because that's how we met.
Mhm.
Actually, I also had my nonprofit to help Venezuelans here.
Mhm.
And then you were doing los talleres de bienvenidas. And at that time, a lot of Venezuelans were coming, they were
Mhm.
migrating. And then that's how we connected.
Yeah.
So it was through our love for community
Mhm.
activism and,
Mhm.
that we're sitting here together.
Yes.
So did you, in that part now that they're mentioning activism, did you know that you wanted also to launch a nonprofit and no?
Ese fue porque me dio, me dio una encabronada,
En
como dicen en
serio.
Puerto Rico. I was so upset and so um angry, quite frankly, with the lackluster response and the lack of cultural competency in addressing the
Mm,
needs of our community
sí.
in the aftermath of Pulse. And now we see what happened with the One Pulse Foundation y
Mm,
todo ese desmadre que hay ahora, right?
mm,
And so, and then after Maria, and after
ujú.
the crisis también
Que no
en
había, o sea, no
Venezuela, o
había
sea que no
nadie.
había there wasn't
Sí,
that Nancy Rosado.
sí, sí, sí.
Yes. So Nancy Rosado one day calls me and say, "Hey, let's go to this meeting." And I'm like, "I'm not going to go because they're going to talk and talk y no llega nada. They're not going to act
Mm,
upon what they're talking about." And I'm tired of having
yeah,
conversations about what the needs of our community are.
yes.
You know, just ask anybody in our community and we will be able to tell you,
Mhm.
and ask anybody in our community and we have the solutions. We just need proper
Exactly.
allocation of resources.
Resources.
And so anyway, so I go with Nancy to this meeting, and on the way out, we were in the car, she was driving, and I was like, "Pa, pa, 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 pa." I was livid,
Mm.
livid. And she tells me, "Ya, are you done?" And I'm like, yes, I'm done. And she's like, great. So now what are you going to do about it? And I said, I don't know. She's like, why don't you just start your own nonprofit? And I said, pero ven acá.
Cuéntame más.
What a brilliant idea. That's
Yes.
exactly what I'm going to do. And so
Wow.
then again, I had no idea what the
Yeah.
hell I was getting myself into, right? I just knew that I
Like,
had to
what
do
is a
something.
501c3?
Yes, I just felt like I had to do something,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so I did. And
Yeah.
so from there, the talleres de bienvenida, which we were already doing as part of our corporate give back to the community, became the flagship program of SOS Orlando.
Exactly.
And then we now have Casa Culture, which is
Sí.
the arts equity and entrepreneurship
Okay,
development
les
model.
digo, I don't know where Sami gets all the energy and time to make all this happen, porque tiene Casa Culture, right? We have SOS, and then you also have your podcast,
Yeah.
and now you are about to launch another one.
Yes, I know, but it's not me alone, right? And
Yes.
so I want to peel away at this, right? And take away from yo,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it takes
It
a
takes a
tribe.
village. Yeah.
It's our tribe, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it keeps growing. You know, every time, you know, I go to a networking event or I travel, you know who your
Mm-hmm.
people are. Like when we met,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like te veo, hablamos
Sí, sí.
y hacemos,
Y hacemos,
right?
exacto.
So that's all it is. So Chris, for example, with the podcast, I met him because I was part of a board of a pretty prestigious organization here in Central Florida, and he was a marketing manager there. And so I walk into the first meeting, and of course I start not bomb, but just weighing in very professionally, but very assertively about what I viewed as unfairness, opportunity, voids, gaps, right? And my personal opinion and professional opinion on how we can remedy it, right? Or solutions, because I'm very solutions driven. And so when I left, he calls me and he's like, hey, you were just at this meeting. Can we meet? And I'm like, okay, white, male, millennial. What does he want to do with me? ¿Verdad? Y entonces, nada, nos tomamos un café. And what ensued was a budding friendship. Now we're like family. 6 months later, after meeting each other, that was 6 years ago, he calls me up. He's like, Sami, I want to do something with you. What's on your bucket list that you feel you want to do, but you don't have the technical ability to do? And I said, it's así, a podcast. And he's like, let's go. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah. And so that's how it all started. Again, everything has happened because I found the right collaborators, right? The right people that without them, I wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I do, starting with my husband, Scott, que no sé cómo me aguanta, you know, pero, you know, he's a real partner, right? With the kids, he's an amazing dad. He's our creative director. Right. And he's just amazing, you know?
And also as a woman and, you know, have a mother, right? And also business owner, how have you able to manage everything, right? With your kids, because I see your kid and now Catalina, you know, is part of Urban there and is doing these incredible things that you're posting every Monday. So, you know, I think you have been able to integrate it into your life, which is beautiful. And, you know, because I don't think women have to choose, you know, I'm going to be a mom or I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be a professional. You know, I think we can integrate all that, right? So,
yeah, but it's with a lot of difficulty. And I have my meltdowns twice a year. I have my like legit meltdowns, right? I just had one in November, right? And so we just have to be real about the fact that it's mentally draining, physically exhausting. There aren't enough hours in a day to be able to do everything you want to do. And you just have to be a master at prioritizing.
Exactly.
That's it. Eso es todo. Tienes que saber discernir, ¿verdad? ¿Qué puede esperar y que necesita atención ahora mismo. And absolutely, my kids
Yeah.
and my husband, definitely come first. But they also know, right, that when I have to be there, I'm present, I'm
Exactly.
generous, I'm
Exactly.
loving, right? We have a good old time,
Yes.
right? But my kids are also really tough porque cuando no se puede, no se puede, right? And so I think that I've transferred that to them where they're very independent. They're very wise for their age, and they also have this mindset of openness, right? And that they don't like rules,
Yes.
right? And
Uh-huh.
which is fine,
Yeah.
right? But they understand that that's like, for example, school. They hate school. And I say, yeah, it's where you're being conditioned to be part of the workplace, right? And so then it just is what it is,
Yeah.
right? And they're clear about that. So we try not to sugarcoat
Yeah. Yeah.
reality. And in my advocacy, right? I dragged the kid. Cuando pasó lo de
They know.
Pulse, the kids were there. When we were working with Gloria Puerto, Feed and Fortify, the kids were there. When we work with Father Jose in Azalea Park, the kids were there, right? And so I think that helps them stay grounded,
Yeah.
and really understand the depth, right, of everything that I do.
¿Y qué consejos, what advice will you give to a Latina, that it maybe wants to start her business, but is a mom, and, maybe that's kind of, she doesn't see that happening because she doesn't want to, because I have seen it. I don't have kids, but I have friends that have kids, and maybe they let their dreams, aside because they want to, they think that maybe they're not going to pay attention too much to their kids, but you're a woman and you have different, you're a person, right? And it doesn't have to be just one thing. So qué consejo, what advice would?
Well, the first advice I'm going to give you is do it, because one day they're going to leave, and you can't lose yourself in motherhood. You can't lose your identity doing this thing called motherhood. So that's the first thing. It's okay to be selfish, and we need to rid ourselves from that guilt. As Latinas, our value is connected many times to our performance as moms, right?
Yeah,
and so
that's
then
right.
we need to start letting go of that. Okay, so that's the first advice, is like drop the guilt. Okay, and the second thing is carve out time.
Exactly.
Carve out time and surround yourself with people that know how to exercise entrepreneurship and that can give you their honest opinion. So that way you're able to avoid the pitfalls of starting a new business, right? And there's a lot of resources out there, just start asking, right? The right people, and you'll find the people that are going to generously guide you, right?
Yeah.
So that way you avoid, mama, don't do this,
Exactly.
do that, right? Or don't talk to these people because they're going to give you the runaround, right? And so that we need just to be very real and open about that, And the second thing that I would say is that once you get going, get a really great CPA, because you don't want to mess around with the IRS. So so those are the two things. First, build your sounding board or your personal board of directors, okay, that can give you insights into planning, into prioritizing, into just mental wellness, right, within your circles, and join organizations where you can find that. And then secondly, from a purely business standpoint, the first person you need to hire, and it doesn't cost much, right? It shouldn't cost you more than $200, $300, $400 every quarter, if you're just starting, right? But it's the best $1,200 a year you're going to spend.
Yes, definitely.
And the CPA, right?
Yeah,
And
the
the
CPA.
accountant.
No, yeah,
Yes.
please do that. That's the best.
Yes.
The best. I remember that I used to. Well, I'm a client of Prospera, right? But I remember at the beginning, I used to go a lot to receive consulting from them, and I remember they said you have to have your external team.
Totally.
Right, because no podemos saberlas todas, right?
Yep.
And we cannot do everything. So it was like your accountant, your banker, right?
Yes.
Your legal advisor.
Yes.
And to cover all those areas.
Yes. So that way you can do what you're very good at. And that's another piece of advice. O sea, dicen que el que mucho abarca, poco aprieta,
Mhm.
right? Don't bite more than you can chew.
Mhm.
If there's one thing that you can do, like killer,
Exactly.
que nadie te llega ni a los tobillos en eso, por ahí es que va,
Sí,
¿verdad?
sí, sí, sí.
Stick, hyper focus on one thing because it's easier to excel in that one thing and then upsell,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So excel and then upsell, and yeah, and that's great. And then something that I learned from my girlfriend Lakeisha too is like once your business is going, right? Always think light lift, high pay, right? So what are the things that take you less time to do,
Mhm.
but that you could get the most money for? And it's so funny because my
That's the
daughter
best.
just used that at school
The-
this week.
But that's so great that
Yes.
she's learning that
Yes.
at that
Yes.
age. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes. So she told
Yes.
somebody because the teacher was doing an exercise about writing about what you aspire to be when you're an adult, right? Professionally. And this one kid in the classroom said something like, I want to do something where I don't do nothing, but I could be rich. And the teacher's like, well, the real world doesn't work like that. And then my daughter says, well,
Oh my gosh.
well, you can find something that's low lift, high pay.
There you
And
go.
I said, you said that? And she's like, yeah. So,
There you go.
but it's
I love it.
finding, right?
Yes.
Your niche,
Mhm.
understanding what your value proposition is
Exactly.
and the worth
What
that
makes you
people are willing
different?
to,
Yeah.
what makes you different and pricing it right, right?
Exactly.
Don't shortchange
Yes.
yourself.
And I think that happens a lot at the beginning and
Yeah.
more with women. Y
Yes.
más con Latinas.
Mm-hmm.
That way, unfortunately, we don't see the value that we provide
Correct.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And entonces lo hacemos de lo más, ay, vamos, en mi primer proyecto lo voy a
Sí.
barato
Sí.
y no.
Yo pequé de eso.
Y yo también.
Yes.
Y yo también,
Uh-huh.
pero después cuesta.
Yes.
Right? Because I even remember you were part even, I think that was a year after I started the business, a lunch bowl. We did a ideation session with
Uh-huh.
Orlando Magic that they were helping us think outside the box on how to escalate the business. But they were looking at our, what I thought it was my, no, they asked me, what is your pain point? Where do you think que no puede seguir creciendo?
Claro.
Y yo le dije, pricing.
Sí.
I didn't know how to, I knew the value that I had at that time, right? Pero no sabía how to then price differently, ¿verdad? Entonces, I think that will be, ask. Even today, I got a phone call from a friend that is going to start doing freelancing for branding. And she's like, Anna, I don't know, I was sitting down with these friends and they're starting a company and they asked me how much did I charge for branding, and I haven't done this. She does branding for her businesses and things.
Yeah.
And she's like, how much do you charge? I'm like, that's the thing that you need to do. Like, ask your friends that are in the same, or haz un estudio.
Totally.
En vez de ponerlo a hacer lo más barato que hay allí.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in that collaboration with others too, then new businesses comes your way, right? And so I have a friend, for example, that used to work for a marketing firm for many years, for 23 years actually, and she just got laid off because they merged, right? And so she reached out to me through LinkedIn. And so she's like, I know you're busy, but if you have time, here's my phone number. And I called her immediately.
Wow.
And she opened up a marketing firm.
There you go.
And so then I say, hey, fulana. And she's like, oh my God, you called me. And I'm like, of course, because I don't want you to go through the hardship
Exacto.
that I went. And so then, make a long story short, I put her in touch with resources, right? She took a course, a crash course. She's doing great. And then she calls me like 3 weeks later. She's like, I have a client for you. And I said, why? And she's like, oh, because I don't have the bandwidth and I don't know. And I said, Nena, no.
Wow.
No, that's your client. We can support you.
Yes.
But if I don't have to bill, if I don't have to do the
Exactly.
interfacing and have to do the follow-up, we'll help you with the fulfillment.
Claro.
Collaborate. And I told her, here's my proposal, right? This is the rates that we would charge for that. Agrégale lo tuyo.
There you go.
And then let's do it, right? And so now her marketing firm is my client.
There you go.
But the client doesn't even know, right? Ni se enteró, And so then I don't care how, listen. I don't care how we make the money, right? As long as we're making it. And if we're making it together, even better, you know? And so by me empowering her, she's another salesperson, another business development person for us, right? And vice versa, right?
Así es, el poder de la colaboración. Pero,
Así es.
ay, ya estamos llegando al final. No quiero que se acabe, pero I wanna, before we end, you know, I want you to tell us your why. Why are you doing what you do in a personal level? And because I think that's what keeps you going. But also, why are you doing your, it's your business, the activism part. I think it all goes together, like you mentioned. So,
my why is that if Latinos are driving this shift in this country to a new global majority, over my dead body, we're going to land on the other side of this with the short end of the stick. Our economic power, our wealth, our viability, okay, has to mirror our growth in numbers.
Yes.
And so that's it. And so I'm hyper-focused on helping our community build wealth, thrive, and elevate humanity. I feel like, this is it, right? And so we have an opportunity to really bring back the family values that supposedly this country, right, was founded on. And so, and really, where our herencia, right?
Yes.
I actually did something during Hispanic Heritage Month, right? Okay. Our heritage is such, right, that we can make a difference in how our children are going to inherit America.
Yes. Mic drop, everybody. Mic drop. Thank you, Sami, de
Thank
verdad.
you, Ana.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Gracias
you,
por
Ana
estar aquí
Carolina.
en Hablamos Spanglish y ya sabes, esta es tu casa. Ya hablamos de que vamos a hacer un evento acá y todos nos vamos a sentar en el yellow couch
Sí,
como
así
friends.
es. Gracias un millón. It's nothing, I mean, it's just such a gift, to have your friendship and your sisterhood, and thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, mi gente. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey of Hablamos Spanglish. It is a pleasure for me to explore the diverse stories and experiences within our vibrant Hispanic community. I hope that you have found inspiration, connection, and a deeper appreciation for our culture and heritage. Remember, our stories are what unite us and what make us stronger. Stay tuned for more captivating episodes in the future, and don't forget to follow us on social media and share your thoughts with us. Hasta pronto.